Most people believe their biggest problem is overthinking. That they think too much. That their mind won't shut up. That their thoughts create anxiety, fear, and emotional exhaustion. But psychology suggests something different. Your problem isn't overthinking. Your problem is that you're not thinking authentically. Because there's a huge difference between thinking deeply and thinking dishonestly. Overthinking is when your mind circles the same thoughts again and again without resolution. But inauthentic thinking is when your thoughts are shaped by fear, people's expectations, past conditioning, and emotional survival patterns. One creates insight. The other creates inner conflict. Part 1: What overthinking really is. Psychology perspective. Overthinking is not the enemy. The human brain is designed to analyze, reflect, and imagine possibilities. Deep thinkers, creative people, emotionally aware individuals, they think a lot. Psychology shows that reflective thinking is linked to higher emotional intelligence. But overthinking becomes painful when it is disconnected from truth. When your thoughts don't match what you actually feel. When your mind is busy trying to justify what your body already knows. When you are mentally negotiating with yourself instead of listening to yourself. That's not overthinking. That's self-betrayal in thought form. Part 2: The hidden problem, inauthentic thinking. Most people aren't thinking too much. They're thinking what they were taught to think. You were trained to be reasonable. Even when something feels wrong. You were trained to be understanding. Even when you feel hurt. You were trained to see the good in others. Even when your nervous system feels unsafe. So your mind learned to override your emotional truth. This creates mental noise. Not because your brain is broken. But because your inner truth is being ignored. Part 3: Why your thoughts feel loud at night. Have you noticed something strange? Your mind becomes loud at night. When you're alone. When there's no distraction. That's not random. Psychology shows that suppressed emotions surface when the nervous system relaxes. During the day, you stay busy. You perform roles. You meet expectations. At night, your mind finally has space to speak. And when you haven't been honest with yourself all day, your thoughts get louder, not to torture you, but to bring attention to what you've been avoiding. Part 4: Overthinking is a survival pattern. For many people, overthinking began as protection. If you grew up in emotionally unpredictable environments, if you were criticized, misunderstood, or emotionally unsafe, your brain learned to analyze everything before acting. You learned to scan for danger, to predict reactions, to rehearse conversations. Psychology calls this cognitive hypervigilance. Your mind became active not because you're weak, but because once, being alert kept you safe. The problem isn't that you think too much. The problem is that your mind is still trying to protect you from threats that no longer exist. Part 5: When thinking becomes performance. A lot of thinking isn't about understanding life. It's about managing perception. How should I respond? What if they misunderstand me? What's the right thing to say? What will make me acceptable? This creates mental exhaustion, because you're not thinking from your truth. You're thinking from strategy. Authentic thinking is simple. Inauthentic thinking is complicated. One is grounded. The other is noisy. Part 6: The nervous system connection. Your thoughts follow your nervous system. When your body is in fight or flight mode, your thoughts become repetitive, anxious, defensive. When your body feels safe, your thoughts become clear, creative, and honest. This is why just stop overthinking never works. Because overthinking isn't a thinking problem. It's a safety problem. Until your body feels safe enough to be honest. Your mind will keep spinning stories to protect you. Part 7. Authentic thinking feels quiet. Here's something surprising. Authentic thinking feels quiet. It feels grounded. It feels simple. Not because life becomes simple, but because your inner world is no longer in conflict. When your thoughts match your emotions. When your choices align with your values. When your boundaries reflect your needs. The mental noise reduces naturally. Not through control, but through alignment. Part 8. Why people fear authentic thinking. Being authentic in your thoughts is dangerous in certain environments. Because authenticity reveals uncomfortable truths. This relationship doesn't feel safe. I'm tired of pretending I'm okay. I don't want this life anymore. I've outgrown this version of myself. These realizations are not dramatic. They are destabilizing, so the mind avoids them. It creates loops, distractions, rationalizations. Overthinking is often the mind's way of delaying emotional honesty. Part 9. How to shift from overthinking to authentic thinking. You don't fix overthinking by thinking less. You shift it by thinking more honestly. Ask different questions. Instead of, why am I like this? Ask, what am I avoiding feeling? Instead of, how do I stop these thoughts? Ask, what truth is trying to surface? Instead of, what's wrong with me? Ask, what part of me is asking to be acknowledged? The moment you start listening instead of managing your thoughts, the noise softens. Part 10. The emotional freedom nobody talks about. Authentic thinking creates emotional freedom. Not because life becomes perfect, but because you stop lying to yourself about what hurts. You stop negotiating with your intuition. You stop minimizing your discomfort. You stop explaining away your emotional reactions. And slowly, your mind becomes quieter, not empty, but honest. Closing reflection. Your mind isn't broken. Your thoughts aren't your enemy. Your overthinking isn't a flaw. It's a signal. A signal that your inner truth wants space. A signal that your nervous system wants safety. A signal that your authentic self wants permission to exist. You don't need to silence your thoughts. You need to stop abandoning yourself inside them. And when your thinking becomes authentic, your mind doesn't get quieter because you force it to. It gets quieter because there's finally nothing left to argue with inside.